Alright, let's get into it then. You know the drill by now. At this point, I honestly think we need a big loud siren going off every time we dive into a new tier list, just to prepare everyone. Because that's exactly what today's video is all about. No beating around the bush, no dramatic build-up, no overly produced intro with flashy music. We're in the middle of an international break, and quite frankly, we're just needing a bit of chat. Something to chew over, something to get folk talking, and what better way to do that than with a good old-fashioned tier list? Good to see you again, by the way. If you're just tuning in, welcome back, and if you're a regular, you know what's coming. The plan is to ease ourselves back into the rhythm of daily content here on the channel. We've had our wee break, but it's time to get back into it, and what better place to start than by having a long, honest conversation about the Celtic squad, specifically the depth we've got and the areas where we're maybe lacking a wee bit. Now, this isn't just a one-off idea I pulled out of nowhere. Lately, one of the biggest talking points among the Celtic support has been about the squad depth. Is it enough? Are we covered in all areas of the park? What does it look like when injuries start piling up? It's the kind of conversation that's always bubbling under the surface, but after that loss to Rangers, it's come right to the forefront. Suddenly, everybody's talking about the summer window. Suddenly, we're all scouts, we're all directors of football, and we're all trying to figure out where Brendan Rodgers needs to be spending his money when the time comes. So today, we're going to try to unpack all of that. We'll go through the squad, top to bottom, and decide who stays, who goes, who maybe gets loaned out for a bit of development. We'll even include the lads who are currently out on loan themselves, players like Palma, Kwan, and others who might be returning once the season wraps up. The idea is to take a good hard look at what this squad might actually look like come preseason. And look, I get it. We've been here before. Around this exact time last year, we did a similar video, the classic Keep Sell Tier style review of the entire squad. Back then, it felt a bit easier. The picture was clearer. You kind of knew who was off, who was nailed on to stay, and where the dead weight was. We all sort of agreed that Matt O'Reilly was probably moving on, and to be fair, we weren't far off with our predictions. But this year, it's a bit trickier. The lines aren't as clear-cut, and there's a lot more gray area. See, last year we could safely assume a few players were away, and we were all mostly alright with it. This time around, it's murkier. You've got players who've been hit and miss, others who've not had a proper run of games, and then the ones who've shown flashes of brilliance but haven't nailed down a consistent spot. It makes the decisions harder, the conversation longer, and the planning for summer all the more important. The main thing I want to get across right at the start is this. We're not doing this tier list just for the sake of filling a video. It's not just content for the sake of content. There's a real point to this. The squad depth, or in some areas, the lack of it, is a serious concern. And when you start putting names on paper, when you really start to go through it properly, it becomes obvious just how much work is needed. We're light in a lot of key areas, and if injuries hit us the same way next season, we could be in real trouble if things stay as they are. So the way this is going to work is pretty straightforward. I'm going to run through each player and try to weigh up two things, what I personally think should happen and what I realistically expect the club to do. Because let's be honest, those aren't always the same thing. Some lads I'd keep in a heartbeat, but I've got a sneaky feeling the club might be planning to move them on. Others might stay due to contracts or quotas or whatever else, even if they're not exactly first-choice material. It's a balance of idealism and realism, and that's what we're aiming for here. Let's start with the goalkeepers. I won't waste too much time here because it's one of the few areas where I think things are pretty settled. All three of our current keepers, I'm talking about Hart, Bain, and Siegrist, should stay, and I reckon they will stay. There's always that shout that maybe one of them, probably Siegrist, could go out on loan just to get some minutes under his belt, but honestly, I don't see it happening. Hart will be number one for at least one more year, Bain is reliable enough as a backup, and Siegrist seems to know what role he's playing at the club. It's not the area we need to be focusing on right now. Now, from there, we move into defense, and this is where things start to get a bit more interesting. You've got players like Alistair Johnston, who despite having a bit of a shocker against Rangers, is absolutely still a key part of this team. The reaction online after that game was, frankly, ridiculous. One bad performance doesn't make a player useless. Johnston's been rock solid since he arrived, and getting rid of him now would be madness. Then there's the curious case of Mikey Johnston. Honestly, he's one of the biggest enigmas in recent Celtic history. A player with bags of talent, flashes of brilliance, but never quite made it stick. Even after a decent showing in the Derby, I just don't think it's going to happen for him at Celtic. We need to free up wages and space, and sometimes you've got to let go, even when there's still a bit of hope lingering. It's time to move on. Greg Taylor is another one with a big question mark hanging over his head. No new contract signed, no news about his future. You've got to assume that means he's heading for the exit. And if that's the case, it opens up a whole new problem at left back. We don't know if Bernardo's going to stay. We don't know if Scales can cover their long term. And honestly, we can't just wait around hoping Tierney might magically reappear in green and white. Then you've got the center backs. Cameron Carter-Vickers is obviously untouchable. He's our rock, and we need to do everything we can to keep hold of him. Give him a raise. Hand him the captain's armband. Whatever it takes. The man is irreplaceable. Same goes for Mike Naraki, who is still settling but has shown enough to suggest he's got something to offer long-term. But when you look beyond those two, things thin out quickly. Liam Scales is decent squad depth, sure, and I'd keep him around. But Stephen Welsh? It feels like it's finally time for that chapter to end. He's out on loan again, not really doing much, and he's just not developing into the player we hoped for. At some point, you've got to cut your losses, and I think this summer is that time. All right, I'll pause it here. That's just the beginning of the squad breakdown, and we're already starting to see the cracks. Not necessarily in the quality of individuals, but in the overall numbers, in the balance, and in how vulnerable we could be if even one or two key players drop out. There's still a lot to get through, midfield, wide players, strikers, but this already paints a picture of why this summer is going to be absolutely crucial for Celtic. Picking up right where we left off, let's move into the midfield now, which, depending on who you ask, is either Celtic's greatest strength or a massive area of concern. Personally, I think it's a bit of both. We've got some real quality in the middle of the park, no doubt about it, but the minute you lose one or two key players, things start to look shaky. Take Callum McGregor, for example. Our captain, our heartbeat, the one who sets the tempo every time he steps on the pitch. Without him, the whole midfield looks lost. It's not just that we lack a like-for-like replacement. It's that we lack anyone who can even come close to doing what he does. We've been spoiled with Callum for years, but we can't keep relying on him to play 60 games a season. Eventually, it catches up. Luke McGowan, for me, has been a solid addition. He's not going to light up the Champions League or anything, but he's dependable, he understands the role, and he offers something different in that midfield rotation. Yes, he had a rough outing in the last derby, but who didn't? One bad game doesn't change my mind about him. He's a good squad option, he's homegrown, and he's someone I'm more than happy to keep around. Rio Hatate, though, that's where things get a bit more complicated. There's no question about his talent. On his day, he's one of the best midfielders in the league, maybe even the best. But the inconsistency has been creeping in, and it makes you wonder. Is it just form? Is it fitness? Or is his head already half out the door? I'm not in the sell camp just yet, but I do think we need to be realistic. If a good offer comes in, and we've got a proper replacement lined up, maybe it's time to cash in. But that's the key. It has to be the right replacement. We can't just flog him and hope for the best. Paulo Bernardo is a no-brainer. If we can keep him, we absolutely should. He's been a massive miss since dropping out, and people forget just how influential he was becoming in that midfield. There's something about the way he links play, breaks lines, adds energy. He's not flashy, but he's effective. We don't know yet if talks have started to keep him permanently, but in my view, that should be a top priority. He's got the potential to be a core part of the team moving forward. Then there's Jeffrey Schlupp. He's not even officially our player yet, but I think we're all in agreement that we should be making that move permanent. He's experienced, versatile, and brings a physical presence that we've been lacking in certain games. Whether as cover for left back or as a more dynamic midfield option, he's proven his value. And if he's available on a free, then it's even more of a no-brainer. But again, it all depends on whether the club is proactive enough to get the deal done before someone else swoops in. Now we get to the forward line, and this is where things get really tricky. Young, to start, has grown into his role. Early on, I wasn't convinced. He looked a bit raw, a bit unsure of himself, but credit where it's due. He stepped up in recent weeks. His form has improved, his confidence is up, and you can see he's becoming a real weapon on that right-hand side. Still young, still developing, but definitely worth keeping around. No question about that. Then you've got the big money man, Marco Tilio. I mean, what can you even say? 9 million spent last summer, and we're still asking ourselves what exactly we've bought. He's shown glimpses, sure, but nothing consistent. Nothing that makes you think, this lad is the future of our attack. Still, for the money spent, he's not going anywhere. Not yet. Whether you love him or hate him, he'll be sticking around, and let's just hope the club finds a way to get the best out of him next season, because right now, that transfer looks like a flop. Nicholas Kuhn falls into a similar category for me. There's talent there, anyone can see it, but there's also a lot of question marks. We've not had enough time to properly assess him, and that's what makes decisions like this difficult. I wouldn't sell him, I wouldn't loan him either. I'd keep him in the squad, give him a proper run, and then make a decision next season. But for now, he stays. Daisen Maeda is untouchable. Simple as that. His work rate, his pressing, his pace, he brings something to this team that no one else does. You might argue that his end product could be better, but if you're watching Celtic week in, week out, you know how important he is. He sets the tone from the front. Anyone even thinking about trying to poach him this summer should be chased down the street. We can't afford to lose players like that. Then there's Hoda, back from injury, back in the squad, and back to reminding everyone just how good he is. He's one of the best players we've got, no question. We missed him terribly when he was out, and now that he's returned, we need to make sure he stays fit and firing. He's got that X factor that can turn a game on its head. Players like him don't come around often, so let's not mess this up. Palma is likely off, and I won't lose any sleep over it. There was a bit of excitement when he first arrived, but it fizzled out quickly. If he does come back from loan, I don't expect it'll be for long. The writing's on the wall there, and it's best for everyone to move on. James Forrest signed that one-year extension, and look, fair play to him. He's been a great servant to the club, and if next season is his last, then I hope he gets the send-off he deserves. He's not going to be a starter, he's not going to be a key man, but having that experience in the dressing room still counts for something. Keep him, let him go out on a high. Then we've got the loanees. Marco Hover, I'm not even wasting time. Nothing to discuss. He's not part of the plans. Quan, for all the memes and the fan-driven hype, just hasn't shown enough to convince me he's got a future at Celtic. He's not a kid anymore either. 24 years old, barely making a dent at Hibs. If you're not bossing it there, you're not going to cut it at Parkhead. Simple as that. Johnny Kinney, though, I'd give one more loan. There's something there, I think. We just haven't seen enough of him in a Celtic shirt to know what he's truly capable of. A loan to a higher level, maybe even within the Premiership, could be the key to figuring out where he stands. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. So when you tally it all up, we're looking at a maximum of 20 players that I'd comfortably say are worth keeping around for next season. That's not nearly enough. Injuries, suspensions, rotation, 20 players doesn't cut it anymore. And the bigger issue isn't just about numbers. It's about quality and depth. When McGregor's out, the midfield suffers. When Carter Vickers misses a game, the whole backline looks shakier. Up top, we've got maybe 2, 3 players who can genuinely make something happen on their own. That's not sustainable. This summer is huge. Not just for Brendan Rodgers, but for the whole direction of the club. If we want to keep progressing, if we want to be serious in Europe and dominant at home, we need to build properly. No more deadline day punts. No more last-minute panic buys. The planning has to start now. We need real reinforcements, in key positions, with proper intent. Not just squad fillers. Starters. Players who can push the current crop and raise the overall level. And let's not forget about the registration rules, the homegrown quotas. That complicates things even more. You can't just go out and buy whoever you want. You've got to balance the squad properly. But that's no excuse for standing still. The board needs to back the manager, give him the tools, and trust that he can mold the squad the way he sees fit. Because if we're sitting here this time next year talking about the same problems, the same gaps, and the same lack of options, then we've failed. So, that's the state of the squad as it stands. 20 players who, in my eyes, are worth holding on to. That's the foundation, but it's just that, a foundation. There's a lot of work to be done, and it needs to start as soon as that final whistle blows on the season. Because if we wait too long, we'll be left playing catch-up again, and that's something Celtic simply cannot afford. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Celtic appear to be setting their sights on a major attacking reinforcement, with Hearts captain Lawrence Shankland emerging as a prime target. The Scottish striker, who has been in scintillating form for the Edinburgh club, has attracted significant interest from the Hoops, who are eager to bolster their front line ahead of the next campaign. With an impressive scoring record and leadership qualities that have made him indispensable at Hearts, Shankland's potential move to Parkhead has already ignited excitement among Celtic supporters. Shankland's journey to becoming one of Scotland's most prolific forwards has been anything but conventional. After spells at Aberdeen, Ayr United, and Dundee United, he ventured abroad to Beerschot in Belgium before returning home to Hearts, where he quickly established himself as a talismanic figure. His goal-scoring prowess has not gone unnoticed, and Celtic see him as the ideal candidate to lead their attack, adding depth and competition to their forward options. The club's admiration for Shankland is no secret, and with his contract situation at Hearts being closely monitored, the timing could be perfect for a high-profile switch. For Celtic, securing a striker of Shankland's caliber would be a statement of intent as they look to strengthen their dominance in Scottish football and compete effectively on the European stage. His ability to find the back of the net with remarkable consistency, coupled with his experience in the Scottish Premiership, makes him a valuable asset. The prospect of Shankland linking up with Celtic's dynamic attacking unit has fans eagerly anticipating what could be a game-changing acquisition for Brendan Rodgers' squad. While Hearts are keen to retain their captain and star forward, the lure of Celtic and the opportunity to play in European competitions could prove too enticing for Shankland to resist. Negotiations are expected to be complex, with Hearts holding firm on their valuation of the player. However, with Celtic's determination to secure his services, this transfer saga is poised to be one of the most captivating stories of the summer window. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.